I'm Karen Stone, and this is Year by Year. With World War II behind us, 1946 might have been a year of optimism and renewal. Instead, it was a year of serious domestic problems. Inflation, housing shortages, and bitter disputes between labor and management dominated the national news. And with the Nazis defeated, the U.S. was already worrying about a new enemy overseas, Communist Russia. As we'll see in the newsreels of 1946, even as President Truman warned that the world could not survive a nuclear war, the United States tested an atomic bomb on a tiny island called Bikini Atoll. We'll have these newsreel stories and more, including Admiral Byrd setting sail for Antarctica and Sophia Loren at the Academy Awards. Now, Year by Year, 1946.
In Miami, 10 years after he bolted the American Federation of Labor to form the CIO, John L. Lewis comes back into the fold, bringing to William Green, president of the AFL, the 600,000 members of the United Mine Workers. It's big news on the labor front as big names in labor bury the hatchet. The vivid imaginations of H.G. Wells and Buck Rogers never cooked up a more fantastic experience than the Army engineers at their laboratory in Belmar, New Jersey. Banks of instrument panels control a radar installation that gives man his first actual contact with the moon. An amazing round trip of over 477,000 miles. Ready to shoot the moon. The radar antenna is pointed directly at Luna, and the thrill of a lifetime is in the making. Three 2.5-second trips up and back. If you're ready for another trip to the moon, let's go. Following the resignation of General Charles de Gaulle, the French Assembly, representing the people, chooses a new provisional president. In the Chamber of Deputies, the formal notification of his election is presented to the new leader, Félix Gouin, who warned his country that it was in for a long, hard economic pull.
The Navy draws the veil of secrecy from another wartime winner. An aerial television camera is loaded into a test plane for a series of striking tests at Anacostia. Special aerials serve the electronic camera, which is mounted in the nose of the plane. The test is on. The camera is aimed at a desired objective, and at Anacostia, 40 miles away in the television room, an image takes shape on the screen. The picture of a dock is brought right into the staff room. It was this kind of information that led to the sinking of several Jap ships in the Pacific. In actual war, this powerhouse could have been seen and written off by commanders as far away as 200 miles. Not even the nation's capital can hide from the prying eye. Another example of war-born genius. In Tokyo, General MacArthur welcomes a distinguished visitor from New York. Former Police Commissioner Louis J. Valentine assumes a new role, that of streamlining and modernizing Japan's police setup. His first official act is to inspect the traffic problems. Later, he'll give crime-busting the benefits of his New York technique. He'll put the nip into Nippon.
Headed by 83-year-old Connie Mack, Dean of Baseball, the Athletics take up their chores for 1946 at West Palm Beach. In Connie's promising crop of pitchers is Dick Fowler, who played with the A's last year, and Bobo Newsom, who also was a tower of strength in 1945. Another standby of the Athletics is Russ Christopher. Yes, they're good, but it's Cornelius McGillicuddy, the old mastermind, who can show them how it's done, even if that old soup bowl does creak a little. Here's hoping baseball's grand old man will be in there pitching for many another year. A GI dream come true is this oil well in Skiatook, Oklahoma. 3.5 years of service in the Army delayed the plans of Virgil Greenwood to drill a wildcat well. But now he's found the proverbial pot at the rainbow's end. Greenwood got home from the wars just in time to keep his lease on the property and begin work. Drilling started late in '45 using homemade tools and a lot of good old American know-how. And now she's coming in by the barrelful. Yes, sirree, it's something to celebrate. One of the original Big Three, Britain's former Prime Minister Winston Spencer Churchill comes to New York to make the speech which he promised would be of international importance. The big city takes him to its heart, all except a few dissenters at City Hall who gathered to heckle the man who led England to victory. Newly elected Mayor O'Dwyer is on hand at the traditional greeting place, and the disorderly element is quickly subdued. Speaking at the official dinner before a distinguished audience of 2,000, Mr. Churchill backs up his Fulton, Missouri talk.
I do not believe that war is inevitable or imminent. I do not believe that the rulers of Russia wish for war at the present time. I'm sure that if we stand together calmly but resolutely in defense of those ideals and principles embodied in the Charter of the United Nations, we shall find ourselves sustained by the overwhelming assent of the peoples of the world, and that fortified by this ever-growing moral authority, the cause of peace and freedom will come safely through.
11 members of the United Nations Security Council meeting in New York hold a dramatic session to discuss the Russian-Iranian situation. Andrei Gromyko, Russian representative, acting on orders from Moscow, awaits the decision of the council, while Hussein Allah, Iranian ambassador, bides his time to voice his complaint. The entire assembly is tense as Gromyko speaks. When he finishes, a vote is taken on whether or not the Iranian question shall be brought before the council. Gromyko opposes immediate consideration of the issue, stating that Russia and Iran have reached an understanding. Poland sides with Russia, and with the vote 9-2 against deferment, Andrei Gromyko with his aide stalks from the council chamber. This is the climax to the meeting convened to preserve world unity. The Russians leave, vowing not to participate in any discussion that concerns the Iranian question at this time.
Montez, motion picture star, is welcomed at Le Bourget Field by her husband, Jean-Pierre Aumont, as she arrives in Paris for an extended tour of his native land. Reunion in Paris. As the Queen Mary docks in New York, prominent among her passengers is Phyllis Calvert, British film star, who will be seen in Universal's forthcoming picture, Time Out of Mind. Her husband is also a visitor. Lou Costello shows some things not to do with fingers to a bunch of kids at the youth center he and partner Abbott have created in Los Angeles. The center, founded in memory of Mr. Costello's son, begins to take shape even if the pool hasn't any water yet. So why get technical about the swimming stroke? The comedians are starting on a fundraising trip for their pet project. And besides the rousing send-off, they receive luggage from the grateful youngsters. Certainly the wishes of all go with these two who remember that they were kids once themselves.
Still to come on Year by Year, the Academy Awards with Sophia Loren, Bob Hope, and the most popular films of 1946. The most popular films of 1946 were The Big Sleep with Humphrey Bogart, The Postman Always Rings Twice with John Garfield, and The Best Years of Our Lives starring Dana Andrews.
Governor Warren of California joined film notables, including Margaret O'Brien, in Los Angeles for the Oscar Awards. And Myrna Loy is very much on hand at the gala show, as is Ann Blythe. This is the night of thrills in Hollywood, with the coveted Oscars as the prizes. Ray Milland received his from Ingrid Bergman for his performance in The Lost Weekend.
I want to present you this award for the best actor of 1945, Ray Milland, Lost Weekend.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. I'm greatly honored.
Anne Revere is rewarded as the best supporting player for her work in National Velvet. And William Wilder left and Charles Brackett win for the best screenplay, again, The Lost Weekend. And here's an award for Bob Hope coming up.
Bob, on behalf of the Board of Governors, I'm going to present you with an award. You have been so wonderful for the last 7 years in master and ceremonial shows, so would you accept it? But wanted an Oscar for many years. Here it is.
Are you sure you can spare this?
Huh? Yes.
I knew that Look gave an award, but this is the first time I ever knew that Reader's Digest was in this racket.
Well, look, your name is in it.
I'll run down to the gas station and have it pumped up. Thank you, Mr. Herschel. Thank you very much.
Okay.
28 Japanese war criminals, including former Premier Hideki Tojo, go on trial in Tokyo to answer for the aggressive cruelty which they sponsored. The trial is comparable to that of the Nazi warlords in Nuremberg, and the prisoners are charged with crimes against humanity and peace, and finally with just plain murder. Are held before a high allied tribunal in the same building into which Tojo once strutted to declare war. Brigadier Nolan reads the indictment. Sitting back of the once sporty Tojo is Shumai Okawa, who seems a little playful. So, starting, please. Okawa finally had to be removed. Another step towards a civilized Japan. 44,000 racing fans are out at Belmont Park, New York. And it's not assault they back today, but a horse assault has twice beaten. Lord Boswell, number 5. And today in the Belmont Stakes, assault will make his bid. And they're off. 7 thoroughbreds in one of the racing classics of the year. Winner in both the Derby and the Preakness. Assault buys his time until the stretch and then responds to Jockey Merton's all-out drive for victory. Hampton is firing and fading fast. It's Assault showing the drive that has made him the horse of the year. The 6 previous winners of Turfdom's Triple Crown welcome a newcomer, Assault, and racing fans hail the 7th in Racing's Hall of Fame. Assault, one of the best. Here he is, the man who's going to push a wheelbarrow around the world. Right now, he's only got about 24,000 miles to go. He set out from home on the 4th of July, and he doesn't expect to be home again until 1958. He's Larry Hightower, ex-cowboy, well in his 40s, but young in ideas. It took him only 6 days to push his wheelbarrow 112 miles, and a lot of that was uphill. It's hot work, Larry says, and here he cools off in the Cascade Mountains. Oh, those hot tootsies. And think of his shoe bills around the world. All in all, cold foot or hot foot, he'd better get moving. He's only got 12 years to finish. Football, caveman style. This is the original, aboriginal, bowl classic as played at Grants Pass, Oregon. This is what our prehistoric rooters and grid champs looked like back in the dim, misty days when men were men and they forgot to take the pig out of his pigskin. Starting from a T-bone formation, no doubt, and behind powerful interference, Neanderthal Jones poked his way over with the pig. Pig and pork chop. Hooray for Neanderthal. Come on, team. Let's get on the ball and take home the bacon. Touchdown. downbound, or is he? At any rate, this Stone Age play has more broken heads than field running. Well, bowl me down. It's lucky for the football, Mr. Porker, that is, that they don't try a field goal. He's in enough trouble as it is now. He's afraid they'll strike while the gridiron is hot, and presto, pork chop. So it's a fumble, and this little pig is off to market. He's got all the football he wants. That's what he thinks. This goes on until the cavemen are all caved in. And the pig, well, last we heard, he was still running. Higgledy-piggledy. Nazi Germany's prize secret, the deadly V-2 rocket bomb, is assembled by U.S. engineers for testing. Rivaling the atom bomb in importance, the 46 feet of death and destruction is set in place by an ingenious elevating boom at White Sands Proving Ground near Las Cruces, New Mexico. Parts to make up 100 V-2s were brought from Germany, and Proving Ground officers are carrying on experiments involving war and peace uses. In this test, the warhead is replaced by scientific instruments, and a concrete blockhouse with walls 10 feet thick and a roof 27 feet thick houses the control personnel and the firing mechanism. The monster is in place, and here she goes, as shown by the slow-motion camera. Climbing 75 miles above the jagged peaks of the Organ Mountains, the great guided missile is directed, and the results recorded by radio, radar, photographic, and visual equipment. 60 seconds after leaving the ground, the rocket can attain a top speed of 3,000 miles per hour. In this case, the flight was controlled, as viewed through a tracking device. But the future use of rocket power knows no limit.
When Year by Year returns, the atomic bomb and an island called Bikini Atoll. Stay with us. Welcome back to Year by Year. On July 1st, 1946, on a South Seas island called Bikini Atoll, the United States tested an atomic bomb.
The atomic bomb fleet rendezvous for A-Day. Aboard the flagship Mount McKinley, commander of Joint Army-Navy Task Force 1, Admiral William H. Blandy, plans final details. The decks of the 73 test ships anchored in Bikini Lagoon are scenes of feverish activity as scientists plot experimental programs designed to furnish data on radioactive rays, flash burns, and blast effects of the mighty atom bomb. Animals of many kinds are shipped aboard the target vessels to serve as proxies for human crews in man's endeavor to discover measures to counteract the deadly results of nuclear fission. On Kwajalein, ground crews put the finishing touches on the air armada that will take part in the tests to come. The lethal A-bomb is wheeled, carefully screened, toward the B-29 that is to carry it to Bikini. With highest precautions and secrecy, it is loaded aboard, hidden from all but a select few. Armed guards prevent any approach to the plane. Majors Wood and Swankett, bombardier and pilot respectively, talk over the history-making mission of Dave's Dream. As the moment for takeoff approaches, the hand-picked crews don chute. Operation Crossroads has begun. Secretary Forrestal tensely watches the atom plane's approach to Bikini and the fateful $70 million test. On this bombardier rests, in large degree, success or failure. Crew members are tense. Signal start. Every eye in the observation fleet is trained on Dave's Dream. The bombardier's supreme test is at hand as the bomb bay doors open. To protect their eyes against the flash which blotted out the morning sun, men are adequately prepared as HR approaches. Even with these goggles, they saw a stab of light as brilliant as lightning, while those without goggles turned their backs and shielded their eyes with their arms. The miles into the sky, the awe-inspiring cloud billows and surges, blotting out the destruction below. There is no earthquake, no tidal wave or other catastrophe to justify the fears of some. And while some observers felt that the Bikini Bomb was less powerful than its predecessors, many feel that the lessons learned here today will mean a reshuffling of man's strategy of national defense. The final verdict remains shrouded in military secrecy.
After 48 years of American sovereignty, the people of the Philippines assume the status of an independent nation. The transfer is made on the 4th of July, a day full of significance for these Yanks. Huge crowds jam Manila to watch the birth of the Republic, which regains its independence through the voluntary action of the American people. In a message, President Truman assured our continued support. The new nation looks forward to prosperity. Exceedingly poor after Japanese occupation, the Philippines will receive reparations and free trade concessions from the United States. Manuel Rojas, newly elected to the presidency, takes the oath of office as Ambassador Paul McNutt looks on. An old Philippine resident, General Douglas MacArthur, arrives with a special message.
This land and this people that I have known so long and loved so well.
At the Westside Tennis Club, Forest Hills, Long Island, the nation's top-ranking pros get set for the finals. Betty Nuttall and Bill Tilden, former champs, are in the gallery as the doubles get underway. Bobby Riggs and Welby Van Horn in the forecourt take on Frank Kovacs and Fred Perry. Van Horn serves, and the closely fought match goes to 4 sets. Dropping the first set, Kovacs and Perry go on to take the next 3 sets with power to spare. They're the new national professional champs, and are they happy about the whole thing? It's Bobby Riggs' serve in the men's singles as he meets former world champ Don Budd. The fans expected a close decision, but it turns out to be a rout as young Riggs wins point after point. And watching his stunning victory is Mrs. Riggs. Riggs displays his usual tight defense, and today his flashing offense proved unbeatable. The young Californian wins point after point with hard drives and well-placed backhand shots. It just isn't Don's day. Some observers say he was too keyed up for this match and broke under the strain. He beat Kovacs in singles only the day before. Today he loses in straight sets, 6-3, 6-1, 6-1. Match point, and young Riggs is the new U.S. Pro champ. Bobby Riggs, champion.
At Burbank, California, the Navy unveils its newest aerial dreadnought, the Lockheed Constitution. Designed to meet the Navy's need for a large land-based transport to haul personnel and priority cargo across oceans, the 92-ton giant will carry 168 passengers a distance of 6,000 miles. It will be test-flown soon. Smaller than some of our new sky giants, the Constitution will play a vital role in linking our far-flung island outposts. A new feature is the landing gear, whose rotovane-equipped wheels roll at high speed before they hit the ground. Aviation makes new strides. 2,000 families are made homeless in the East St. Louis area as the worst flood in 109 years strikes. It's a muddy track at Fairmount Park as the rivers go on a rampage after a 15-inch rainfall within 2 days. Traffic becomes almost waterborne in downtown East St. Louis, where property damage mounted into the millions. Another of nature's side swipes.
Still to come on Year by Year, President Truman pleads for peace and the front page news of 1946. Stay with us. The front page news of 1946, Joseph Stalin purges the Soviet government of adversaries. Juan Perón is elected president of Argentina, and 5 million workers strike throughout the U.S.
Margaret Truman, the president's daughter, receives a degree of Bachelor of Arts from George Washington University. It is presented by Dr. Cloyd Heck Marvin, with an assist from the president, who is himself receiving a Doctor of Laws degree. In an address to the assembled crowd, the president pleads again for peace.
Ignorance and its handmaiden, prejudice, intolerance, suspicion of our fellow men breed dictators, and they breed wars. Civilization cannot survive an atomic war. Nothing would be left but a world reduced to rubble. Gone would be man's hope for decency. Gone would be our hope for the greatest age in the history of mankind. An age which you and I know can harness atomic energy for the welfare of man and not for his destruction.
Secretary of State Burns lands at Washington, just returned from the Paris Peace Conference, accompanied by Mrs. Burns. Decisions reached at the parties will next be discussed at the November meeting of the Big Four in New York. Meanwhile, President Truman gets a first-hand report and congratulates the Secretary, who talks about peace based on his Paris experience.
In recent weeks, much has been said about the quarrels and divisions in the Paris Peace Conference. Those differences cannot be dispelled or reconciled by a gloss of polite words. And in a democratic world, those differences cannot and should not be kept from the people's concern. In a democratic world, statesmen must share their trials as well as their triumphs with the people. It is better that the world should witness and learn to appraise clashes of ideas rather than clashes of arms.
It can happen here, and here's the proof. On the run come the ladies to check a rumor that proves true. Free nylons just for the scramble. Yep, 600 pairs are given away by a radio station in Hollywood on a first-come, first-served basis. Of course, no press agent had his finger in the stocking. No, that's not him they're carrying away, but a He-Man distributor who was knocked to the ground by these over-enthusiastic young ladies who came out of the fray with their spoils. It may only prove that a woman wants to be a knockout, even if she has to KO her friends to do it. This little sports item has to do with a bunch of boys and girls from Brooklyn and New York, and it takes place at the Polo Grounds in New York. Interborough competition is keen. The only thing they frown on here is out-and-out bloodshed, so that leaves them plenty of room for action. Well, we won't repeat that. The idea is for one member of the five-man team to lap an opponent, but you've got to do it on your own 2 feet. And to keep vertical in this pack of bruisers, you've got to be good. Shall we join the ladies? Miss Brooklyn meets Miss Manhattan. Pleased to meet you. Likewise, I'm sure. These roller-bearing chin-ups play for keeps. At least they won't get housemates Nina's way. Once more, these ladies move in the best of circles, that is. Now, don't start saying they shouldn't show this in the movies and holding on to the top of your head. It seems the gal isn't being hurt at all. And it's all because of the famous Warapa drill recently discovered, which, believe it or not, contains a cooling unit. The cooling being provided by the rapid evaporation of carbon dioxide. All the time, it was the heat against your tooth that was giving you the screaming meanies. Your nerves were being practically fried. Now the deep freeze drill goes to work. That's not smoke, that's vapor. And even the doctor seems to enjoy his painless dentistry. What? All over? Oh, doctor, and you said it would hurt. Series fans throng the Sportsman's Park in St. Louis to witness the 7th and deciding game for the World's Baseball Championship. Ferris pitching for Boston and Dixon starting for the Cardinals, right along on a tie score until the second half of the 5th, when Dixon faces his mound opponent, and whammo! It's a screaming two-bagger down the left field line that sends Walker flashing around third and rolling home to lay up a 2-1 lead for the underdog Cards, with Dixon threatening from second. Changing Redbird's second baseman singles. Dixon digs in and drives for home, while St. Louis fans display a good imitation of bedlam as the Missouri hurler marks up another. In the 8th, Brecheen replaces Dixon with 2 Bosox on base. Don DiMaggio gets his eye on one and splashes a hot double off the right center field wall, tying the score at 3-3 when he drives in Russell and Metcovich. In the Cards half, Slaughter singles to lead off a frame that dims Boston's hopes for the championship. Walker smacks a sizzling double that puts the lid on it when Slaughter romps from first to home on shortstop Teskey's delayed throw and sends the Cards into a 1-run lead with a slide that makes baseball. Brecheen, Rice, and manager Dyer go into a huddle as Boston threatens in the 9th when Campbell, running for York, pulls up at third. Next up for the Red Sox is pinch hitter McBride, batting for Johnson, and he connects. It is forced at second, and the Cards are in. Brecheen, who is credited with 3 of the Cards series victories, is almost mobbed by his delirious mate. Harry the Cat tied the series win mark and is the white-haired boy in St. Louis today. It was a tough deal for the Sox, but victory was in the Cards. A field of 11 gets away in a 100-mile dirt track race at Sam Nunes Lakewood Speedway at Atlanta. In the 98th lap, the remaining 9 entrants are going all out for the prize money. Is well up ahead with 2 laps to go, heading into the dusty, tricky number 3 backstretch, while Billy DeMore tries to close the gap. George Robson, Indianapolis 500-mile champ, burning the speedway, crashes into DeMore's tall racer, obscured by dust. 4 cars smash into the ill-fated turn, where Robson is run over and killed. The nearly 40,000 spectators form onto the track, where the piled-up wreckage strews the course. In addition to Robson, George Barringer, veteran San Antonio racer, was so badly hurt, he died shortly after being carried from the field. 2 other drivers were seriously injured. DeMore's car hits the marsh, and others are so much jumped. A tragic ending for 2 daring sportsmen. New York's Harvest Moon Bowl comes to a glittering end at Madison Square Garden. Here are the finalists in the old-fashioned waltz, still popular with the customers after these many years. But now, a lusty, husky newcomer takes the stage, and brother, get a snootful of this. Get hep, cat, this is Guy, man alive. Or is he? Oh, he's not. He was rested. So on with these Harvest Moonshines. Yeah, they picked a winner all right, but with me, it's a toss-up. An old old sea dog hits port and limbers up his sea leg. His motto is, we have just begun to dance. Clear the deck for action. Jack Frost holds court in Pittsburgh. The ice capades of 1947 are in town, and a special darling of the fans tonight is pretty Donna Atwood, queen of the flashing blade. Donna is agile grace and breathtaking loveliness on ice. He defies old man gravity with split-second precision and timing, demonstrating the fancy steps that have endeared her to millions. And now, while her shadows frame her finale, the camera catches Donna in a fantastically beautiful number. Here are three young blades about town who have put gymnastics on a new and very difficult medium. The Hub Trio, doing what does not come naturally. Not on ice, that is. But these lads make it appear so. They're tops. Three minds with but a single thought. Six skates with but a single purpose. To do this, but good. The Hub Trio. Hubba, hubba.
Still to come on Year by Year, Christmas in New York and the cost of living in 1946. In 1946, a three-bedroom house cost $5,600. The price of a new car was $846, and gasoline sold for 22 cents a gallon.
At Pacific and Atlantic ports, ships and planes of Admiral Byrd's Third Antarctic Expedition prepare for the 10,000-mile trip to South Polar region. The latest in cold weather gear will protect the 4,000 men of the task force. But some of the veteran members roll their own protection. And these little fellas will be full-fledged sled dogs a year from now. Admiral Byrd and his staff study the charts of former voyages to the ice shelf of the Antarctic continent. Voyages like this one, when a doughty icebreaker crashed its way foot by foot through the floes. In such seas as this, the new expedition will launch twin-motor transport planes to map 2 million square miles of Antarctica from an Essex-class aircraft carrier. In the 13-ship Armada, every device known to science will be used to study the frozen waste. But even science cannot better the husky when the thermometer falls to 70 below and the winds howl at 100 miles an hour. In such conditions as these, Navy and civilian personnel of the group will ferret off mineral, magnetic, and scientific secrets of the region during their 5-month stay. Having once proved his mettle in the Antarctic, the sled dog once again is an important member of the new expedition. With the eyes of the nation upon them, men of the Byrd expedition take their leave of loved ones. The flagship Mount Olympus sets sail to push the frontiers of man ever further.
The seasons come and go. Baseball, football, and now it's basketball. CCNY clashes with Idaho in this opener at New York's Madison Square Garden. Idaho scores. And now the action swirls down the court as the City College Beavers fight to keep in the game. Here's the Beaver score coming up and down. The boys from the tall timber country are away on another scoring drive. Leading at the half, the lads from Idaho retain their lead with basket after basket until the last few minutes of play, when the host Gators put on a spirited rally and gradually narrow the lead. They sink 14 points in the last 8 minutes, and the tall Timbers can't match it. The City College Rooters see the Idaho Fire chalk up only 4 points in that time. Here are 2 of the 4 points now, but it's not enough in this game. A rejuvenated Beaver quintet throws up the contest and goes on to win 45-36. The basketball season is underway. The Sporting Lens focuses on ping pong. The nation's devotees of paddle and ball get underway in the U.S. Table Tennis Championships at St. Nicholas Arena in New York City. Laszlo Belak is a worthy opponent. In fact, he's dexterous, ambidextrous, and pedidextrous. If you give him an inch, he'll take a foot. Nice footwork, Laszlo. And that's my cue to move on to the next table, where a couple of table tennis titans are making it tough for the poor umpire. Steady there now, old man. He's not sure who's ahead or who's who. For that matter, who is ahead? Stay, keep your eye on that ball.
Paris blossoms out with its first bathing beauty contest since the war, and peace, it's wonderful. Shapely misses from the Folie Bergère compete for the crown. The Manvels give their all for their art, and you can just bet that audience is giving with the wolf calls. Some people are never satisfied. Get in there and fight, ladies. Ooh, Paris still some material? Nifty, eh, mon ami? The winner and every inch a champion. Ooh la la. Navy Ordnance Station at Inyokern, California, unveils two research projects of the atomic and rocket age. In the cabin of a B-29, Dr. Brody, noted cosmic scientist, adjusts instruments that will measure cosmic rays as they pass through an artificial cloud chamber. Carried to an altitude of 40,000 feet, scientists hope with this apparatus to unlock many of the secrets of the rays that roam the interstellar spaces. Behold the rocket plane that launches 5-inch projectiles so fast that you can hardly see them. A newcomer among rockets is the 11-inch Tiny Tim, which is fired from a 1,500-foot launching rail. Although designed as an aerial rocket, here it is tested on the ground. With a small booster rocket, it speeds into the target at terrific speed. And bear in mind that these targets, which the missile tears like wet tissue paper, are made of heavy armor steel. Again, an awesome demonstration of power. That's an approving ground larger than the state of Rhode Island. Striking force that staggers the imagination is born, with its solemn warning for man in the atomic age.
It happens once in every 650,000 times. Quadruplet. Now it's happened again. 3 boys and 1 very little sister, and doing nicely, too, in their incubators at St. Agnes Hospital in Baltimore. They pose a housing problem that starts right away, but think what it's going to be like at home. There's an older brother there already. The quads were delivered by Dr. Thomas Boyer, who reports that his little charges, all born within the hour, are in fine shape. The parents of the quads are Mr. and Mrs. Charles Henn. Proud Papa presents Mama, whom he met and married in England, rings for all 4 and says,
Though we have our housing problem, which is a big one, we have been offered one very important item, free diaper service.
Broadway, New York's gay white way sets the pace for a gay white Christmas. If the helium hobgoblins are here, it means that Christmas can't be far behind. And they're here, bigger and better than ever, along with colorful floats and pretty girls. Just about everything the kids could ask for and more. Miles of fun and miles of laughs. Even the lions are meek and mild this time of year. It's gay, it's exciting, it's a big show under nature's big top. The gas-filled Slugger with the big feet appears in the lineup, along with other helium oddities with a distinct Yuletide flavor. Yes, Christmas is in the air, all right. The small fry are eager for their favorite saint, St. Nick, and here he is with thunder and blitzen and all the rest. We'll be seeing you again soon. Happy Felton and some of his happy friends are going to give us the word about dunking. Donut dunking, that is. It's strictly from etiquette and all that, so listen closely. First, we see Happy himself fairly serene about the world in general and dunking in particular. However, his neighbor prefers the grab and bite style. Don't be afraid of the donut. It can't bite back. Of course, if you're not sure, go after it with 2 hands. According to the word from the Dunking Association conclave in New York, compounding a felony is the only thing that's taboo, along with spilling on the old lady's new tablecloth. Okay, so she hasn't got a tablecloth. The chief executive, in a cheerful holiday mood, is greeted by Mrs. Truman at Kansas City en route to independence. His daughter Margaret completes the family group, which gets together for a Yuletide reunion in Missouri. The president is very happy to get back to the old hometown, and the summer White House carries a wintry touch to note the season. The independent neighbors are right on the spot to wish the Trumans good cheer. St. Peter's Square in Rome, nerve center and capital of world Catholicism, teems with hundreds of thousands of the faithful who gather at the year's end to reaffirm their Christian faith and to take part in the gigantic demonstration in front of the Basilica. They greet His Holiness Pope Pius XII on the central balcony. The impressive homage paid the pontiff symbolizes the unity of the Church during a troubled period in world affairs.
In 1946, the now familiar image of a burning mushroom cloud was imprinted on the national psyche. On newsreels, Americans witnessed the awesome, destructive power of the bomb dropped on Bikini Atoll. When President Truman warned that the world would not survive an atomic war, Americans now understood why. The pictures spoke louder than words. This has been Year by Year. I'm Karen Stone for the History Channel.
This is a History Channel news fact.
Timeline, 3250 BC. In Mesopotamia, a round rolling device has been attached to a cart, making things easier to move around. It's called the wheel. Stay tuned for more news later on